Okay, we're here today in Waco, Texas at our facility where we build all of our spray foam rigs. And this is a 20-foot spray foam trailer that we're going to take a look at today. This is geared towards roofing. This is sold to a customer in Arizona who will be doing predominantly roofing with this rig, so we've built it accordingly. We're starting out in the front of the trailer here, and I'm actually going to just kind of walk around back. We'll get into this front compartment in just a moment here and just show you the side of the trailer here. Lark Manufacturing, as always, for our trailers. And the 20-foot size, as I mentioned. You can see the DOT tape here on the bottom. It's because we actually have 7,000 pound axles for a total of 14,000 GVW. You can see the 8 lug there on these custom wheels that we put on all of our spray foam rigs standard. Another standard feature of all of our spray foam rigs is that we do insulate them. So no matter what climate you live in, your rig will be insulated standard from the manufacturer when the order is placed. Now this particular rig, as I mentioned before, is geared towards roofing. So as we get a little closer here, you'll see our T2 transfer pumps from Graco that we use in our barrels on the roofing rigs because they move larger volumes than the regular T1s, which would be geared more towards like regular residential. And here's our gun box here, Spray Foam Solutions. We leaning up against our Boss Proportioner here. And there's the actual spray foam gun, the Boss gun. And I'll talk about what it's sitting on here in just a moment. For right now, I'm going to pan over to our Boss 612 machine. Now this is not a regular 612 machine. This machine's actually been enhanced and designed for high volume applications such as roofing. But what that ultimately means is that we have first of all, our 612 motor up here, which is a 6-inch motor. That's what the 6 stands for in 612. And on our normal like 512 or even 612 machines that we send out that are not high volume, this will not be 3/4 inch like you're seeing here on this machine. This would actually be 1/2 inch. So what we're actually doing is increasing the air capacity to and from the air motor. You can see just real quickly here as we look at the manifold coming into the air dryer here. That's a 1-inch inlet. So this is a big setup here, and what has also been upgraded in accordance with the air capacity that we're bringing into this machine is our actual pilot valve. So this machine is equipped to do pretty much as much poundage per minute as you can feed it air. So on this trailer that we have here, you'll see when we step into the front compartment, we have a 72 CFM rotary screw compressor that's driven by a 26.5 horsepower Kohler motor. So we're feeding this thing a ton of air. And we actually did some testing with this yesterday. And basically we sprayed with an 04 mixing chamber inside of our Boss gun here. And we held that trigger down and let this machine run wide open for as much as about 8 minutes in a single pass without releasing the trigger. Basically just demanding as much air from this machine as we could to see if we could wear that compressor down. And the compressor did not move from 150 PSI, which is the maximum PSI for what we have the compressor set to. So in other words, we weren't able to drain a single PSI out of that tank from our auxiliary air that the rotary screw pump was not immediately replenishing. So really, truly an extremely robust setup that we have here that you are not going to be able to outspray. Now we also do a machine that would be set up very similar to this, but with an actual second tower assembly on it. So this whole tower assembly that you see here bolted to the back of our chassis, this tower with the pumps here and with the air motor, there would actually be 2 of them, not just one like you're seeing here, but a second one, which would be able to run an entirely separate gun and also keep the systems completely independent of each other. So meaning if you wanted to spray, one person spray open cell, one person spray closed cell, maybe you're doing closed cell in the walls, open cell in the attic, or maybe, it can be, 4 or 5 different applications that I can think of off the top of my head why you might want that setup. But The I guess the bottom line is that there's several advantages to that, including that the systems are operating completely independent of each other. So you have a separate set of controls that actually run down this side of the machine. It's basically a duplicate of what you're seeing here. It also has the two completely separate transformers, which are in the base of the machine here. So your heated hose are controlled independently of each other, which is helpful if you're going to be spraying under different circumstances. And it also has a completely separate tower assembly, as I mentioned, meaning if one pump seal gets compromised on your A or B side on either assembly, you are not shut down for the day. You are not sitting there replacing pump seals. You still have a gun that's operating completely independent of this system, and you're able to finish your job application. I won't spend a lot of time on little minor details, but I mean, this is our electric panel here where we wire everything in from the generator that's on the opposite side of this wall. Two single pole breakers and a double pole for our machine. We touched briefly on the air dryer here. You saw the manifold where we have the air coming in from the compressor on the other side of this interior wall here. And we have a 100 CFM air dryer. Now we always oversize as much as we can. This is a 72 CFM air compressor, like I mentioned, that we'll see in just a moment. And we've put even though 75 is an option for us, we've went ahead and put 100 CFM air dryer in here. The cost difference is so minimal, it just makes sense to be on the safe side with things like that. So the other thing that you might notice here is our custom labeled Spray Foam Solutions hose wrap. Now this is an extremely tough nylon guard. This is not like the Chinese finger trap type material that you see on a lot of other hoses that tears very easily. It's extremely rugged. Also provides a bit of extra insulation so that it helps your hose heat come up a little bit faster on the machine. Now, that hose is actually imported from Germany. We have a company out there that makes this hose for us. As we take a look at a couple other minor details with the trailer, you can see we have our LED dome light here that's switched on the wall. Actually runs off the 12-volt battery of the trailer, so we don't have to be hooked up to a truck or shore power or have the generator running to operate this light. We can still have light inside of our rig. Here's our custom-made pressure and temperature blocks that we put on both the B side and A side of every trailer. These are extremely useful tools for the fact that we always want to know exactly what our temperatures are on the foam that's coming in. Like there's a temperature sensor on the other side of this gauge actually immersed in the fluid, so we know exactly what the temperature that comes through this transfer line from our barrels is. There's no guesswork. We're not taking a infrared gun and shining it on the side of the barrel to try and guess what the extremely viscous fluid inside of the barrel is. We have an exact Fahrenheit measurement with once again a temperature sensor that's immersed in the fluid, telling us exactly what our temperature of the foam is. This guy on the bottom is a pressure gauge. And what this is basically telling us is it's giving us an indication of how much back pressure is being provided as a result of the fluid that these transfer pumps are feeding our machine. So these transfer pumps, the T2s, are 2.25 to 1 as far as air to fluid pressure ratio, meaning if we're feeding this guy here 100 psi of air, correspondingly, on this machine or gauge on the bottom here, we should be seeing 225 fluid pounds of pressure. So again, 2.25 to 1 means 100 psi here, 225 psi here. So it's a gauge that's helpful when we might be troubleshooting. Hey, we're not spraying on ratio. We think maybe there's a check valve issue with one of the check valves on the pump. Perhaps not the most perfect example because we've never actually had a check valve issue on these pumps to date. But if there was one and we were getting a bunch of back pressure, this gauge would immediately tell us, oh, yep, we know what's going on. It's also helpful for troubleshooting issues that you might have with transfer pumps as well. So moving on very quickly here, the first aid kit, OSHA approved, got all of our medical supplies, emergency supplies in there that we might need on a job site. our eye wash station for a saline solution for anything that might get in a worker's eyes. And here's the fire extinguisher, standard with every trailer. Let's see here, we got our 120 outlets, 120 volts on both the B and the A side of the trailer. Going back to these gauges real quick, you can kind of see there in the middle it says Boss. This is our design that we've actually given to Boss to make for us, and Boss is once again the manufacturer of the actual machine, the proportioner that we're seeing here. The reason I'm taking time to mention this is because I think it's important to realize that this was made in the machine shop that Boss actually has on premise at their facility, meaning there's no, it's not just simply American assembled equipment. This is American manufactured equipment. Boss is generating all of the parts for this machine, all of the machined parts anyways, inside of their machine shop, which is where these were made. So an important point that I think is worth mentioning. The recirculation kits that you see here and here come standard on all of our Boss equipment. That is where our recirculation kit basically starts. If we were to open this lever here, we're now sending our fluid through the heated hose as if we were spraying foam, and we're saying, no, we want it to go through our recirculation line, which is running along here, and then all along to our B side, where it drops down and comes over to where our recirculation kit ends, which is right here. And this is actually a metal rod that goes through several fittings here that is immersed in the fluid of the B side and A side barrels. The only difference being on the A side, you can see we have our canister of silica beads here that actually keeps the moisture out of our A side barrel, which is very important. We don't want to mix our what is essentially glue with any moisture or any air, because that's going to cause this, which is hardening of the A side chemical. So just another thing that's worth mentioning, the extra step of going ahead and building these guys here. It's nice to have those rods down in the fluid so that we're not just dumping fluid on top of the fluid in there. And we can talk about that in a different video. That's more on the chemical side of things. But we're going to, for now, step down past our little tread plate here. And we're going to go and take a peek in the front of the trailer here, which is our mechanical compartment. This is our 72 CFM rotary screw compressor that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go ahead and take a step inside once again on the tread plate here. And here's our battery box that's attached to the front, the 26.5 horsepower Kohler motor that I mentioned in the beginning of the video that we would show you. Here is the screw pump that's generating our CFM, and 50-gallon tank, which is actually upgraded from the standard 30 that would normally come on this particular unit. We've also gone ahead and taken the extra precaution of putting an inline pump here just to ensure that there'll never be any issues. Again, just kind of taking the extra step to make sure the equipment is built complete. There's our gas line that goes up to our 6-gallon gas tank. You can see it's seamless. So despite getting some heat inside of the front compartment of this trailer, which is obviously going to happen with a large compressor and a large generator generating heat, granted this generator is on a slide and exits the trailer completely, which we'll show you in just a minute. But that's a little custom rack that we've built for the 6-gallon gas tank to rest on. Here's our LED light in the front compartment. That's what's providing the light in here right now. Otherwise, it would be completely dark. We have another one of those in the rear compartment. And this, although this unit does have an electric fan on it, and you can see as we kick that on there, that's putting a real good breeze out here, cooling our motor down. But once again, we want to take the extra step. We don't want to leave any guesswork. There's these rigs we sell all over the United States. They go to all sorts of different climates. So we're down here in Texas, of course, and that's where we test the equipment. Even though it tests okay down here, we want to take the extra step, and we went ahead and put an 1800 CFM fan that also blows and assists with the cooling of this motor and of this compartment overall. Now, as I take a step back out and go over to our rear compartment, I said I would touch on this later. What that gun is resting on there was the actual custom shelving that we welded in-house here and mounted the fan to the bottom side of. So we have that fan mounted, like I said, pointing directly at the back side of that motor, just assisting with the cooling, just ensuring that we're never going to have a lockup where our compressor stops producing air for us in the middle of an application because, you know, it's 120 degrees in Phoenix and oops, you know, we didn't prepare for that. So just another example of the extra steps that are taken here. That's the LED light in the rear compartment. Once again, that's providing all of the light in here. It would be completely dark without that light, and we can kind of demonstrate that. Well, the trailer light is still on here, but you know, that's providing all of our light. And I think we've pretty much touched on everything that I wanted to show you in this particular build that we do. Once again, if we were spraying with an 04 tip yesterday, wide open for about 8 minutes, never missing a beat, perfect cone shape coming out of the gun, being maintained the entire time. And with an 04 mixing chamber spraying at 1500 PSI, which is what we were doing yesterday, we are actually producing about between 37 and 38 pounds per minute of production. You know, we emptied almost a half a set of foam in a matter of about 12 or 13 minutes yesterday. So this thing is just cranking, perfect for the roofing applicator who's got, you know, 20, 50, 100,000 plus square feet of coverage to do on a roof, that needs to beat the next weather front coming in, needs to stay competitive with the competitors who are saying, you know, hey, we'll do this job in 3 weeks, and you don't want to come in there and say, well, it's going to take me 6. So it's perfect for the professional applicator. You don't necessarily have to be a roofer. It could just be where, you know, you're doing very large pole barns, and once, you know, again, you don't have to use an 04 tip or an 05 tip. You can use an 03 tip. You can use an 02 tip. You can even have, like I said, our twin tower system with the 2 towers, and 2 guys could be spraying with 03 mixing chambers, and this equipment would not hit any speed bumps. I mean, we basically, through all of our testing, could not get it to come off of cruise control. So thank you for watching the video. One last thing I will mention that I forgot to mention in my last video is the redesigned door here that, when it's closed flush, seals completely. It's got some nice thick weather stripping on there. And as we open our doors, which have both the RV locks and the bar locks for additional security, you can see we can put our hose through here, so our friends in the northern climates that have to value every single BTU that they put into this trailer trying to keep their chemicals warm, they can run their hose through this door and keep everything closed up nice and tight and maintain proper chemical temperature. So just another little example of trying to take it to the next level and keeping things fluid for all of our customers, all of our contractors out there spraying foam. Again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, as always, you can contact us at the number here, which is our 1-800 number, or you can get a hold of me directly. I always make myself available. Area code 608-658-0221. Thanks for watching.